better ladder this week. But it was the Sam Mitchell situation which really dominated the MCG yesterday. I want to get to you, Kane, straight off the top because you played on Sam Mitchell a lot of times. What did you think of what happened?
Storming a teacup, Hutchie. I thought we want the characters in the game. We want the sledges. It's not the first time the Essendon players would have heard a sledge from an opposition player.
You have no problem with him doing that?
No problem whatsoever. I know Mitch came out after the game and spoke about the look of the game, but I got kids at home. They wouldn't even know what Mitch was referring to there, so I got no problem with it. I think it's an overreaction.
He was one of the better players on the day. He had 30 possessions. You are one of the few players to have a great record on him. How did you used to go about it? Did you find that, you know, trying to needling, pardon the pun, worked or that just came
No, we just used to have quiet chats, Mitch. He was pretty good. We didn't sledge each other too much, but he's a pretty smart football person. He'd know, he would have, you know, he spoke about it after the game and was pretty quick to admit that he did something wrong, which was good, Hutchie, getting on the front foot.
It was. It's the great Australian way. I still think the AFL have a look at this, though.
On what grounds?
Yeah.
Why? What's he done wrong?
Just on the message it sends.
What's he done wrong?
They've had similar instances in the past where they've issued fines or suspended fines.
On a racial or religious vilification issue, on what grounds, though, would
that
this
whole
be investigated?
code now does capture any type of discrimination or vilification.
On what grounds? Just give me the ground they would charge him.
Well, I think it was great that he apologised, but it wasn't a good look for the game.
Oh, it's not a great look for the game, and everyone would talk about the kids, but I'm with Kane. It's just part of the game, and Essendon sort of, I guess, made their bed, so you don't really want to see that. And he was very quickly after the game. He was the instructor, he's become the injector now, but Sam Mitchell had this to say after the game.
Said something that doesn't need to be said, and you know, it's probably not a good look for the game, so I shouldn't have done it and won't happen again.
Is it fair game? Is that sort of thing fair game out there, or do you think it's inappropriate in hindsight?
Oh, it's probably inappropriate. I think it's not in good taste. You know, it's not something that you want to see. You know, I got my kids here at the game watching, and you know, it's not something you want people seeing and talking about. It's all been done and dusted now, so you know, I don't think it's a good look, and I shouldn't have done it.
Latest chapter in the rivalry between these two teams, and you could tell after the game that James Hird was less than impressed.
If it's something that's still out there, I think it's naive and idiotic, really, for someone to do that. If he has done it, but if he's apologised, then I think we let it go. It's disappointing for our playing group that that's still happening, but perhaps the propaganda that's been around about what's happened at our club, you know, maybe people have believed it, and maybe it's not Sam's issue, it's all the propaganda. But I would hope that he'd apologise to our player and we'd move on.
James Hird using the word propaganda. There's been more propaganda coming from his mouth and his cohorts than anything that's been said by the media on this whole topic, Bill. And the facts of this matter are, we can talk about propaganda and fact, but the facts of this matter are he cannot still, to this day, look his players in the eye and tell them what drugs they were given under his watch.
What is propaganda? What does it mean?
It's misleading information.
Well, why didn't they say that instead of propaganda?
Is there an argument here that the industry all of us need to actually take the higher ground and say, all right, Essendon's been kicked enough.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Do you think?
I think that's why it stood out.
Anyone's got any sympathy for them?
Well, Hutchie, I think that's why it stood out so much, because it's been going for 3 years and we just haven't seen an opposition player do that. There might have been a few words spoken over the journey, Cornsey, but no one's actually demonstrated their distaste. I think the general view from the players is that they feel sorry for the Essendon players, so that's why that stood out so much, I thought.
Is it time to down tools, though, do you think, Nash?
I don't think so. I think everybody agrees that the Essendon players are not at fault here, but at any stage of the Essendon Football Club haven't really, to my knowledge, taken on board anything they've done wrong. And what Damien said is that they still can't tell us what was injected. So obviously it's in poor taste. I think it's the end of the story now. James Hird said, well, if he's apologised, it's the end of the story. So there's not much more to it. Sam Mitchell knows he did something that's distasteful, and let's move on.
That was the most deflated I've seen James in all those dealings publicly, and more on that in a moment with Bomber Thompson's explosive comments. The Age ran an extract of the text messages from quite some time ago yesterday. They weren't new quotes. I hate them more than anyone else that James Hird was attributed to, but Alistair Clarkson picked up on that and he pinned the Age up on the wall before the game to inspire his team. So clearly and of course Clark's been an outspoken critic of Hird as well, so clearly this runs pretty deep. Alistair, though, was laughing it off a bit after the game.
When articles happen to lob on the back page of the paper about an opposition coach hating our club, I reckon there's not a coach in the competition that's not going to use that in some. So did it win us the game? You'd say if we were going to have an impact, we'd have come out pretty fiery in the first 10 minutes of the game, and we were pretty scratchy in that area of the game.
Let's talk about the game, Hutchie. And one guy who was instrumental, probably best on ground yesterday, I thought. And he's had a quiet couple of weeks, there's no doubt about that, was the big rough. And he looked right up on his toes yesterday. It's amazing that a bloke at his size can go through the midfield. I remember going
29
in there,
touches.
29 possessions, 1 goal, 3, so he pushed forward and hit the scoreboard. He's just a nightmare to man up on. There's no midfielder big enough and strong enough to play on him, and then he pushes forward and takes on some of the best defenders in the game and hits the scoreboard. So the Hawks have been amazing in the last couple of weeks in their ability to play well without Roughhead and Gunston playing well,
That's
Bill,
right.
but he was back to his best yesterday, the big fella.
He was. Kicked a nice goal. Now, I've got a stat for you, Brownie.